Alrighty, now we're going to start the filling for our rustic tomato pie. And what we're going to have 1.5 pounds of tomatoes. Now I'm going to use my Jersey Devils, and we're going to slice those 1/4 inch thick. We've got 2 cloves of garlic. We have a teaspoon of dry tarragon, and we have a teaspoon of salt. And we're going to mix that together, and then we'll put that in a bowl. You'll see that in just a second. We also have 1/2 cup of mayonnaise, a teaspoon of whole grain or Dijon mustard. I'm using Dijon mustard. 4 ounces of Swiss cheese split, and that just means you're going to put some of it in the filling, and then we'll put some of it on the top. So you need to not put it all in at the same time, or divide it, I guess is the best word for that. We've got some additional salt. We've got some cracked pepper, and that's going to be to taste. So I don't have an actual measurement for you there. And then we're going to beat an egg white, or we're going to mix it, an egg white with some water, and to put on the crust, and then we'll garnish with basil. But right now we're just going to work on the filling, and the filling is the tomatoes, the tarragon, the salt, and the garlic. So these are my Jersey Devil tomatoes, and I'm not one of those big commercial gardeners, so they're kind of ugly, but that's all right. They're gorgeous inside. And I'm just going to cut off the bad parts here, those splits. Of course, they're washed. Even if you don't use a lot of pesticides and stuff, you still want to wash your vegetables because they may have bird or bug stuff on them. Alrighty, and we're going to slice these in 1/4 inch, roughly, thick slices. Okay, so it's not going to be thin like you put on a hamburger, but these are going to be substantial. These are going to be nice cuts of tomato. I've had a lot of people ask me about these tomatoes. I love them. A plant was gifted to me by a friend of Mr. Holstein's, my husband, Mr. Holstein. And I've been babying this. I love it. It smells so good. It smells like a good, juicy tomato, and it tastes like a good, juicy tomato. I'll show you a slice here in just a second. They're really meaty. They're a multi-purpose tomato. Look there. Look at all that tomato meat in there. Oh gosh, it's so good. So I'm going to put these in here. Now they are ugly on the vine even. They look almost more like a pepper instead of a tomato. We're accustomed to that round tomato look. And this is not a round tomato. I read somewhere one time that if a knife is sharp, it should slice a tomato without causing juice. I don't know about that, but these tomatoes are not, they're good and ripe, but they're not spewing juice all over the place. I do have a little puddle here, but it's not too bad. We'll use a smaller one. And you want to save as much of the skin as you possibly can, because you don't want this turning to mush. You want it to have a little bit of texture. But some of this will just go in the middle. when we get ready. And we're going to have a crust. The original recipe calls for a homemade crust. I don't make homemade crust very well. All right, I'm not going to use all of this bad boy here. I'm just going to use a little bit of him. So let's cut that off right there. I'll slice that up for a sandwich later. Take some of these little spots off. What was I saying? Oh, I'm using a store-bought crust. It'll be just fine. I mean, look at that. Look at how much meat is in there. Oh, and like I said, it smells so good, so yummy. Like a fresh, yummy tomato is supposed to smell. But the crust needs to be chilled, not frozen. So you need to, if you're like me and you buy the ones, the store-bought ones that are in the refrigerated section, they're kind of rolled up. So you want to unroll, you want to take that out of the refrigerator, let it warm enough that when you unroll it, you don't crack it. And then I'll show you what I've done here in a minute. Let me move this. Out of the way so you can see. And all I'm going to do now, excuse me, is I'm going to put the tarragon in here. And I'm going to put the salt in here. And pardon me again. And I'm going to put the garlic in here. And I'm just going to toss this easily. I'm not trying to beat it or mash it or anything. I'm just trying to get it mixed around enough so that the salt and the tarragon and the garlic can touch as much surface of the tomatoes as possible. And then we're going to let this sit for about 5 minutes. So 5 minutes wait on this, and what it's going to do is it's going to let these flavors mingle. The salt's going to pull some of the moisture out of the tomatoes so that we don't have this soupiness going on in the pie when we get it together. And then we'll strain that here in just a little bit. But 5 minutes, gotta wait 5 minutes. Okay, well, my sad little clock didn't go bring, but it's been 5 minutes. And now what we're going to do is we are going to just kind of blend it up a little bit more. And then we want to strain the juices from it. So I'm going to put it in this. This is just a strainer. And I put a paper towel in here to help pull away as much of the liquids as we can. And then I'm going to set it over this bowl. And let it drain for about 20 minutes to half hour. You want to drain it out as much as possible. And because you don't want all that liquid in your pie because it'll make it all gooey. When you're doing fruit pies and stuff that have a lot of juice in them, you tend to bake the pie crust first before you put your fruit down in it, and then bake the pie the rest of the way. But we can't do that with this. That's not how this is done. So anyways, oh, let me show you real quick. We already had, see all that sauce or juice out of there? We already had that much. So we're going to drain some more. I'm going to try to lay these up a little bit so they can not puddle. And then we're going to let this sit about 20 minutes or so. Okay, so our tomatoes have finished draining. Don't know that you can see that, but there's quite a bit more down in the bowl than there was. So what we're going to do now is we're going to finish mixing things up. This is our mayonnaise. This is our, that was a half cup. This is our Dijon mustard. I don't usually use Dijon mustard, so one of the good things about mustard is it lasts a really long time. So if you can, if you're like me and you don't use a lot of mustard, but you go to places that give you the little packets, you know, like fast food places, grab a few of those packets, stick them in the refrigerator and hang on to them. Now, give that a quick mix, and then I'm going to put some of the cheese in here. Mix that up. So it's that Swiss cheese. And mix that up in here. And I'm going to use a little salt and pepper to taste. Now I know if you've never had this before and you're not sure, it's hard to guess it, but you know, trial and error. It's easier to add than you can't take it out. So like after I've done that, you can't take the pepper out or the salt out. So it's easier to go light on it and add more when you eat, and then remember, I should have added a little more salt and pepper to taste at that point. All right, so there's that. Doesn't that look good? Now I'm going to get our pastry, our dough. Now I'm kind of crowded here in my, I'm not ready for Pinterest or kitchen. I don't worry about all that stuff. If you've been watching any of my videos, you know I don't worry about all that stuff. Because there's nothing wrong with having just a basic kitchen, just a plain old kitchen. All right, so this is the pastry I was telling you about that I got. It's store-bought. I unrolled it. I warmed it up a little bit so that I could unroll it without cracking it. Put it back in the refrigerator because you don't want it room temperature. It's just would be too soggy then. And I covered it with a piece. Now, so it's on a cookie sheet. Okay, see that? The cookie sheet has parchment paper in it, and really you kind of do need to have parchment paper. It doesn't have to be the expensive kind. Just get you some store-bought kind or store-brand kind. That'll be fine. But parchment paper on the bottom, that keeps it from sticking, and you don't have to use oil or anything. But when you unroll your pie crust, you know, you get it room temperature-ish, you unroll it, you set it down on a piece of parchment, then you want to cover it with another piece so that it doesn't dry out in the refrigerator while it's cooling back down. One of the things about pastries is cold. You want it cold. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use this extra cheese. Remember, I told you to divide your cheese up so that you had some in there and some extra. We're going to guess. Now, I'm going to use my fork here. We want about 2 inches. So I'm going to guess that that's a couple inches right there. I'm not poking holes in here. I'm just using this to show you about where we want this, because we're going to make a lip on this. We're going to fold this over. So you want your cheese inside there. You want your cheese here-ish, around the edge, not clear back here, but around here, about 2 inches in or so. That might not be quite 2 inches. I'm not very good with that measuring kind of stuff. I want it to go all the way around, so I'm going to get this out first, and then I'll even it up some. Make it like a little tomato dam here to keep the tomatoes from rolling back out. Now, I am not a chef by any means, so I failed to mention that you need to make sure your hands are clean. And my hands have been clean the whole time. You want to make sure your hands are clean, or you're wearing gloves, like if you have a little cut or something on your hand, so that you're not transferring any kind of bacteria. In my live video the other day, we talked about a listeria outbreak. Listeria is a bacteria that's found in food sometimes, and not having good, I was saying hygiene in the video, but really sanitary conditions where you're cooking, so your hands are clean, your utensils are clean, everything's clean. Look up listeria outbreaks in, what was the name of that town in Virginia? There was a town in Virginia. Boar's Head Deli Meats was one of the major ones that was hit with this. And I say hit, it's not like somebody attacked him with listeria, but the outbreak was from a lot of the Boar's Head Deli Meats. Okay, so we've got this little ring. Can you see that? I'm not sure if you can. Little ring of cheese there. We're going to put some of our mayonnaise stuff in there, mayonnaise and cheese. Just a little dab in the middle. Should have got one of my other offset spatulas out for this, but I didn't. Now we're going to put our tomatoes on. Let's switch places so you can see better, I think. scoot the camera a little bit. There we go. That's better. All right, so we're gonna put our tomatoes in here. Another reason why you need to have good clean hands. Put about half of them down first. Put the rest of our mayonnaise and mustard mix on top of it. I can smell like garlic. Garlic is strong. Strong. If you have ugly slices, put them in the middle. Put them on the inside here. And then you can put your nice looking slices on top. All right, there's that. I'm gonna put the rest of this now. As this cooks, when it comes time to cook, this will all kind of melt in together. But we want to try to get it spread out as evenly as possible here. Okay. And we're going to put the rest of our tomatoes on here. They're still very, very juicy. I keep wanting to just reach down and eat one, but I don't want to do that because I'm trying to make this pie. Alrighty. So there's that. And we're going to fold this up. Okay, not completely over, but we're going to fold it up. Kind of make a big pocket. Kind of like this. Scoop these down just a little bit because I can vision in my mind that they'll roll right down because they're a little high there. All right. So there's our little pocket. I'm going to rinse my hands off. All right, and then we're going to use our egg wash that we have over here. Remember, we use some egg white, 1 egg white with a tablespoon of water. And we're gonna brush that over this. All right. There's that. Now, strange as it may seem, this is going in the freezer for about 20 minutes to chill everything up and firm everything up. And while it's in the freezer, I'm going to heat my oven to 425 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so this is going in the freezer for 20 minutes. And the oven's going to be heating to 425 in that meantime. And then we'll cook it for 15 minutes, and then we'll drop the temperature and we'll cook it some more. All right, so I'll see you back in about 20 minutes or so. Okay, I know you can't tell, but it's been 20 minutes, and this has been in the freezer for 20 minutes, and about all it did, it hasn't hurt anything. The tomatoes are not frozen or anything. It's firmed up the pastry, the pie crust, so it's not as floppy and soft, and just kind of settled things, made them a little, well, frozen, not really frozen, but cold. So popping this into a 425 oven for 20 minutes, then I'm going to dial that temperature back to 350 for another 40 minutes, and then I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. So now it's taken out of the oven, and it needs to sit and cool for an hour. And I want to tell you, we've had a little bit, you might see right here, of a cheese spill, but it's going to be just fine. So we're going to let it sit for an hour, and we'll be back. Well, it's cool, and it is gorgeous. Look here. This is just a little slice because, you know, I could sit there and eat the whole thing, but it is so good, and the cheese is so melty in there, and the crust is so great looking and sweet and gorgeous. Give this a try. I'll get the recipe posted in the description, and try it. It is an excellent way to use all those tomatoes you've got this time of year or any time of year. Enjoy.